Again, good morning. I can't see any of you with these lights, but I know you're out there. Thank you. We need each other today. We need each other every day. Right now it feels like the people assembled here, we may need each other just a little bit more today. But some years back, I had the adventure and pleasure of visiting Rome. And no, it's not the one on 75 North. Although it's a nice place. Rome is a fascinating city. It's just history everywhere. It's the home of the Pope and, of course, the Vatican. And I got to tell you, there is art everywhere. I mean, everywhere. You look on a balcony that's open air, and the doors open into a museum. The ceilings are covered with beautiful art. I've been in the Vatican. I've seen the Sistine Chapel. I took an illegal picture real quick with my phone. It's incredible. The things we think would be so large, they're panels about this big. But it was wonderful. And I got to tell you also that dressing is an art in Rome. It is. I was chatting with another American out in the city, and she said, the men are so feminine. They fussy about their hair, their shoes, their clothing. Just look at them. And I looked around and I thought, I don't see any feminine men. I see good-looking men. I see, well-dressed men. I see stylish men, but I don't see any girly men, no feminine men. And while I thought female-ish as feminine, there's a bigger definition. And when this lady spoke of feminine, she meant something different. She meant men who appear softer, more female, more aware of their appearance and the art in the world around. And that just goes to show how my horizons needed expanding, because I just thought effeminate. But she was right. And there were feminine men everywhere. Now, my mother would have jumped for joy, perhaps even converted to Catholicism if she thought I was half that feminine. But you think I'm kidding. And you know, mothers are very, very big in Rome. Mothers with babies are very, very big in Rome. It's the home of the Catholic Church. It's the home of that church that paid for all those Madonna and child paintings. The artists weren't just filled with inspiration. They needed money. And the church had the money, and that's where a lot of this art came from. You know, there's a lot of sacred art. It's everywhere there. Now, the church wanted paintings of Mary and the Christ child to be out there associated with everyday motherhood and the sanctity of family, and reminded that your duty is to be a good Catholic and remember baby Jesus when you have those children. Now, personally, I've always had a few questions if Jesus was as good as they said he was. Really, you know, didn't he ever, steal some bread or cookies at home, or tell off-color jokes to the other boys, or stay out too late? I've always wondered about that, really. But nonetheless, Jesus and Mary are everywhere in Rome. I taught in an alternative school that had daycare for teenage mothers' children. I've never even compared that to the nursing scenes I saw in Rome. It's true. It's just everywhere. I thought, oh, my. Now, what it really comes down to is the sanctity of life, the sanctity of the virgin birth and what that represents, whether you believe it happened or not. It's the creation. It's the ideal of femininity, and it defines in many ways a woman's primary role in life. It's beautiful, and it's also rigid and confining by our standards today. My mother was also rather rigid regarding how proper young Christians, you might add, girls, should behave. She wanted a girly little girl who played with dolls and just trembled to get into makeup, and what she got was me. I want to show you something because I'm not joking. This is two versions of the same thing. This is what my mother loved and what I hated. Really, I mean, it was nice for a couple of hours, maybe. But, look at that. The frilly little dresses, the socks, the shoes. I swear that dress was starched beyond belief. I had on pearls. And those bangs could have qualified me for getting into the Colosseum. They were Roman soldier bangs. Just sit still one more time. Mother's going to even up your bangs. The results weren't that pretty. But, that was her ideal. That's what she thought was good and right and the way it should be. Now, no matter what the intentions, I'll show you how I feel. And you can't see this, I know, but I'm just going to hold it up and imagine you can. Over there, they couldn't see her. Over there is my sister, and that's me. I'm dressed up in a long dress, to go to play a party or something, and I'm crying my eyes out. I didn't like it. My mother said it was because I didn't get invited to the big girls' party, but I know differently. And look, this is what she got. If you can see this, my youth is Zorro. And here I am at my 4th birthday. I don't think you can see this. I'll show it to you afterwards if you won't touch it. I had the mumps. Nobody could come. But there I am in my cowboy hat and my guns, my little jaws swollen. That's who I wanted to be. It was unseemly that a good Christian young lady had an ambition to go out west and ride with Roy Rogers. Really, that's just not what they expected. And no Dale for me. Dale was nice, but she had a horse named Buttermilk, let's face it. And, it was Roy all the way, actually. Not very feminine. And to quote my Aunt Pearl one more time, Lord God, I'm serious. They were not thrilled. So let's bring all this together. What does this have to do with the topic today? And I'll tell you, I know what the title says. The focus is on the divine feminine. And a lot of people hear that and think different things. The divine feminine is not the Virgin Mary, although she is held up as the ideal mother, even though she was unmarried. But she was held up as the ideal mother, that sanctity of birth. In fact, the divine feminine is not any one person, and it has naught to do with masculinity or femininity, and it has nothing to do with the way we dress or express ourselves with manly mannerisms or effeminate ways or feminine or masculine ways. It is much more than any of these. Now, the divine feminine is that aspect of how prayer works, that works with having surrendered and allowing. You do that, I say. Oh, yes, I do that. Sure. I'm not controlling. Really, And many people thought that surrender and allowing was the way women should be. That's the way you should be. You should be nice and do what the man tells you to. And that was for that time. We're different today. But in many ways, the effects of that linger with us. They do. However, we are not victims of our circumstances. So let's get this straight. The divine feminine is about having faith enough in the power of prayer to stop trying to control it, stop trying to make something happen, but just getting quiet and having faith. That is the divine feminine. It is the promise that the divine the celestial, always answers prayer. You may be thinking, what? Really, you may be thinking that because I believe that sometime back I was thinking that. Hey, I've prayed and dang, what happened? Nothing. But in order to understand the divine feminine, it is essential to understand how the universe operates on a basic level, how prayer works, and the role our consciousness plays in creating daily life. Now, this is a short, sweet lesson, and I think you'll be able to follow this. I'm not going to teach physics today. God is not a large person in the sky. There are people who believe that. When the first Russian astronauts went into space, they came back and said, I looked, there was no God out there. There is no God. Now, and there is no God somewhere watching our every move for doubt, for mistakes, and having legions of angels enter them into the celestial cloud in the sky. There's no supercomputer, even if anybody's going to have one, it would be the infinite. But truly, the angels are probably going to do that, and they're probably watching us. No, no, and no. Now, our understanding of God and my understanding of God is omnipotent, omnipresent, everywhere equally. That God is a very large energy field that is constantly responding, that it is a field of intelligence. And if you could see this room, actually really see what's going on in here, there are waves of energy passing through everywhere. You could tune a television or a radio in here. If you could even see the waves of thought, because it has been photographed, waves of thought leaving a human brain. We are putting out energy. That field of energy responds to thought, feeling, beliefs, actions. The energy goes out from us and into that field, and the field responds to us accordingly to the vibrations and frequencies we're putting out there. And it creates the circumstances of our lives. Got it? Anybody have any questions? You can stop right now. No, I'm serious. Because, somebody may go, I don't know about that. I don't know what that is. This energy goes out into intelligence and is unerringly acted upon. You can't say, well, you can say, but it would not be accurate, that your prayers are unanswered. Because your prayers are not just a letter to God that starts with our Father and ends very truly yours with Amen. It is not. It is everything we think, do, and say. It is the energy that we are strongly emitting. So we have to be careful what we pray, because it's everything we do. And you may be saying, well, God's not a big 50-foot tall man in the sky on an uncomfortable gold throne. Does God have a personality? Well, Ernest Holmes, our founder, taught that there is nothing in this world we see that is not an aspect of God. So God must be self-aware in some way. I'll find out later. Perhaps nobody's really come back to tell me about it. Seriously. So is God watching everything I do? That sounds a little pervish, doesn't it? Really? Oh, God, shut the blinds, But truly, God is not male or female. It is so much larger than that. It's not consciously involved in the details of our lives. Saying, ooh, I see you thought that. Ooh, I see you did that. I saw with whom you did it and what body parts you used. And there are a lot of people who are carrying around a lot of guilt. Let us not joke about it, about some things they have done, and think that they have sinned in the eyes of God and they're condemned. Absolutely. Now, For some people, that might take away the motivation they have for doing good. I mean, after all, if God's not watching and God's not caring and it's just some angel entering into a computer up in the clouds, what is my motivation for doing good? Why can't I just run amok? I mean, nobody's watching. Well, that's not totally true. It's not the eyes that we think of, the physical eyes. It's the energy we put out there because it's going into this big field of intelligence and it's coming back. And if you put something out there, a vibration pattern that will appear as a circumstance or an object in our life will come back that corresponds to that. Absolutely. There is no free lunch. Think of it. Let me give you an example. Think of a radio. Think of a broadcast tower. Now think of yourself as broadcasting your thoughts, and they are going out like the old RKO tower that had the radio waves coming out. Think of it like that, and it's broadcast, and it goes out through the medium in this field of intelligence. And the intelligent field responds and corresponds by creating circumstances in our lives that when we listen to the radio of our life, it parallels what we have put out. Now that's really something else. We're the radio, we're the tower, and we're part of the intelligent field. So it's interesting. That field does not judge. It does not evaluate. It does not stop and say, "Oh, Susan, I know you didn't mean that." No, it just does it. It's automatic. That aspect of the divine does not have a choice. It has to respond. That is the creative feminine, the allowing that I'm speaking of. It doesn't have a choice. It automatically does this. If you want to know more about that, please take some classes and it will be explained to you and you can understand that in a greater way. Well, if you turned on a radio and let's say you loved classical music and what comes out is the very thing that you hate the most, maybe you don't like rap, maybe you don't like talk radio, whatever, you turn it on and it comes out. Oh, it's like fingernails on a blackboard to you. If you love rap or rock or something else, maybe you turn on wanting to hear that and you get Rush Limbaugh or someone else. Something that really just grates on your nerves. How many of you pick up the radio and shake it and go, "Bad radio, bad"? If you were just digital, if you had bigger knobs, if you had a better antenna. What do? What do we do when the radio is putting out things we don't like? What did you do? Change the channel. In other words, change the frequency that is going to be tuned in and manifested as what's coming out of our radio. And we are the same way. If we don't like something in our life, it is so tempting to go say, "You did this to me. I couldn't do it because," fill in the blank. But the truth is, that's like looking in the mirror, seeing ink on our face and keeping wiping the mirror. It's ineffective. Now, this sounds simple, and it is, but simple does not equate to easy. And I'll say that again. This is simple, but simple does not equate to easy. It's not just one passing thought. We don't have to be careful. "Ooh, I thought a negative thought. Ooh, I'm thinking about a negative thought." That's not it. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. But I will tell you, if you think that negative thought with so much emotion and so much conviction that it is imprinted within your consciousness, it's going to have a very big effect. Whether you realize it or not, there are subconscious things we're not aware of that we believe that are affecting our lives in so many ways. Absolutely. If I pray for a particular experience or a particular goal, now, let's say lowering my cholesterol, getting a new job, a relationship, whatever it is, the universe responds. Okay, hop to it. And then what happens is if 10 minutes later you start thinking about all the reasons that this can't happen, how difficult it is, how much you're going to have to do and give up, and it's going to be so hard, but you have a lot more emotion than, hey, my cholesterol is great, my health is good. Which one do you think, if you put them on a balance, is going to weigh more? We have to change our thinking and change our vibratory output. You know, because here's my favorite biblical phrase. I've waited years to say this. Yea and verily. Do you know what yea and verily means? It's like, okay, yes, times 10 or 100 or 1,000. It means, okay, you got it big. You know, the energy put out is right in line with the energy put in. The answer, as we've heard, and it's not tried, is change your thinking, change your life. And prayer is anything we think and feel. So we are constantly emitting and creating. Now, prayers always answer. It may not look like what we think it should. In fact, it often looks like it has nothing to do with what we want. You know, what happens when we pray is that things come up that stand in the way of us having that answered prayer. We're not being tested. We're not being denied. We're not have things thrown in our face. Well, you believe this, you did that. It's just an opportunity to change our thinking and change our reactions, change our patterns. You get that? Yes. Okay, so no, God's not testing us. Prayer is always answered. For example, I remember years ago, Karen Wolfson, who's been in Sarasota for a long time, was our assistant minister. And she told us in a class that she had prayed for patience, more patience. She wanted to just come down like a cloud, just surrounding her from heaven, and she would be mystically transported. And what she got was the longest lines in the grocery store and every store she went into, giving her opportunities to practice patience. She was in the very line that was long, but that one person gets up there and is arguing about the 3 cents difference on a coupon, who talks about the price of this 1 can of English peas, and I don't think it's good, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Let me tell you, that gives you an opportunity to practice patience. And while you may be laughing, let me tell you, you got your own examples. I have my own examples. Oh, yes. If you treat for a loving relationship, everything that stands in the way of that, everything will come up for you to release it. If you have tolerated people treating you inappropriately, poorly, demeaning you, you're probably going to get some more of that so that you have the opportunity to stand up and say, no more. The buck stops here. That's it. You know, perhaps my inappropriate beliefs or behaviors will be highlighted. It feels like they've gathered everybody in a big outdoor area with a screen so they can all see all the things maybe that I have done that are keeping me from that relationship. It can feel that way. It can feel really naked when these things come up, you know. And you say, okay, Susan, I got it. It's simple, not easy. Change your thinking, you know. But it's really not that easy. I go, here we go to the crux of today's talk, the divine feminine. People may think it's hidden. It's right there for us. I said it is the faith in the power of prayer. Is that more? It's surrendering control of trying to force something to happen. I'm going to think this prayer so many times, it's just going to happen. I'm going to think it over and over and over. Where do you think that's based? In a need to control? We don't control the universe. Sometimes it feels like we can't control our household or ourselves. Oh, yeah. So what is the basis under that? What's the foundation of the vibration being given off? Under control usually is fear. If I don't force this, it's not going to happen. It won't happen the right way. It won't be the way I want it to. Instead of saying, there's an infinite mind that knows all, that can do this in much better ways than I can even imagine. I trust, and you sit in that. Sometimes you have to sit in that and sit there, and what will happen is your stuff comes up, whatever your stuff is. And I liken it to having a chair. And that chair has 4 legs, and you sit on it, and it's really sturdy, and you feel comfortable. That's our everyday life. So you start treating, and let's take 1 leg off that chair, and now it's on three legs. It's a little easier to tump over, isn't it? We start taking away our defense mechanisms, our busyness, our eating, our purchasing, whatever it is we do that keeps us from really seeing our stuff and understanding. So you then take another leg. Now, really, really unsteady. If you remove that last leg, that's like being on a unicycle. It's scary. You stand there and think, oh my God, why did I pray for this? Why? This is too much. I can't do that. And that's the very moment to surrender. Something within me knows, something within me and this universe knows how to produce it. I have no doubt. I simply will sit here and wait for divine action, divine inspiration, and I will know when that is. I will know. It will feel different. It will feel right. And then I will act. But I will sit. I will be silent. That can be so hard to do. I'm a very actively brained person. And sitting still and getting quiet, I lead meditation, but by myself, it can be so challenging to meditate. It takes a long time to get still. You know, I'm like that old Larson cartoon where there's the little old tree bent over and there are 2 vultures on it. There's no food in sight, you know, because they eat dead things. And one vulture looks over at the other one and says, "Patience my ass, I'm going to kill something." That's my control issue. You know, that's how I want to go out and make something happen. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to contact this person. I'm going to send a note to that person. I'm going to eat this certain way. Why can't we live in faith? Because we have come to rely on this physical world more than the other world. And that world is the world that we're avoiding, that creates the facts that we're living in. It's that old rubbing the mirror to get the ink off your face. Yes, it is. You know, when the fertilizer hits the ventilator, it's really easy to go back into our patterns. It's really easy to slip back and say, "Woo, that was tough. I'm going to have a beer." Or, "Woo, that was this or that. I'm going to eat some chocolate. I'm going to go read. I'm going to go out and be in a lot of people." I'll do whatever it takes not to feel these feelings. And I am speaking to you as one who has been there. I'm a recovered bulimic, and I use food, particularly chocolate. Yeah, it was unhealthy. It was extremely unhealthy. It's dangerous for our health. You know, sometimes it takes a dramatic event to get us to go into that faith. It can be a suicide. It can be an illness. It can be a job change. It can be a sudden reversal in fortune. Whatever it is, see what comes up. Take 1 leg out from that chair and sit there and be silent. And I guarantee you, you'll start realizing what's there. Sitting in the silence. That is the chalice. That is the holding place. That is the cradle of creation. I always refer to it as the cradle of creation and know that that is where true change happens. You know, we have to get committed, truly committed to what we want. We have to take away our crutches. We have to take away the things that we use that we just fall back on without even thinking, kind of like the fish in the ocean who says, "What water?" I'm so used to seeing things this way, I don't even think about it. Now, when you do it, I'm going to tell you again, you can feel naked, exposed, vulnerable. It can feel like you are about to die. I want to go into all my fallback behaviors, and when I do that, the silence is deafening. When I moved to Maui in 1995 to take the church there, Maui is one of the quietest places on earth. It's an island. It's one of the Hawaii is the most remote place in the world as far as distance from everything else. And I wasn't used to it. I was a type A Atlanta person. And I went and did. Everybody had a job. I knew personally people there who were homeless. They lived in their cars. They lived in a tent. They ate fruit off the trees. It was a culture shock. I didn't have any cable where I was. Radio stations could be extremely hard to pick up, and they didn't have things that I was used to. I was about to commit hara-kiri. I'm serious. It was awful. I had addictive withdrawal. I did not like being there. But in that quiet, my doubts, my fears, my insecurities, my wanting to run back to my safe behaviors all came up. It was a dark night of the soul that stretched out over months. Void of our defenses, we can be at war with ourselves or at peace. Of course, there's all the in-betweens. When you and I stay in this place, we strip down to our essential beliefs when we get really still and stay in that place. Do I believe what I say I do? Am I willing to do what it takes? Am I willing to believe there is a power that will support me, that always says yes? I'm just going to give it different things to say yes to. Dan Brown in the bestseller, The Da Vinci Code, said the story that many do believe that Mary Magdalene was the chalice of God, that Mary and Jesus had children, that this was a great secret that no one wanted to get out. And there are a lot of people who believe that. I can't tell you, but when something happens like getting pregnant, you can't control it. You just have to surrender to it. And what comes out is a beautiful creation. There's changes, there's challenges, and the birth part isn't exactly delightful. From what I understand, I only have puppies. We must quiet ourselves. We must get still, release all opposition. Let go of being a vulture looking for something to kill. Patience, true patience. Sit there and stay there if you want it to happen, or else just say, I'm not even going to pretend to want to change. I'm not even going to pretend to say I believe what we say, because it's said that there is nothing worse than a frustrated metaphysician who knows how to manifest and is not doing it. Absolutely. I think the divine feminine is kin to atomic power. It's so much power. It's incredibly powerful. It can make it feel like your life is exploding because it's going to change. And let me tell you, things will change when you pray and you mean it. You may notice your friends drift away. You get new friends. You may notice, someone told me once, don't pray for me. I don't want to lose my job, because that's what she thought would happen if I prayed for her because she wanted a different job. But it's like a beautiful flower unfolding. The divine, the creative feminism cannot be forced, coerced, or hurried. It's all available, and it lies in repose waiting for us. It lies in repose waiting for that masculine aspect of doing, of those things to come in and fertilize it and create that which is coming. Now, sadly, in many cultures, even today, certainly today, the religious constricts, confines, have taught us what men and women should be, how people should be. And it has been, some cases, wonderful, but in many cases, it has been devastating. Men should be this, they should do this. Women should be this, they do this. I know almost no gay person, for example, myself included, who does not have some guilt about not fulfilling the family expectations. We may not show it, we may say it doesn't affect us. Let me tell you, it does. People who are disenfranchised, they absorb those beliefs. They absorb that violence in them. I know ministers who in the past have said, kind of like to their congregations, oh, it's flower time, the sun is shining, the sky is blue, I love it. It's not like that. True spiritual work gets you where you got to go, but you got to do what you got to do to get there. You know, I think imposing external standards on people for what they should do is harmful. Certainly, we give them guidelines as children grow up, but how many children have been told they're defective in some way? Absolutely. You know, gay male teenagers have 4 times the rate of suicide than the average teenage population. World events don't control us. It is up to us to create a more loving, accepting, and peaceful world. We're the start of it, but not every church is saying these things today. Not everyone is hearing this. But it is up to us, each of us, to create that consciousness in ourselves. There's so much beauty out there. There's so much joy out there. My mother didn't get the daughter she desired. I didn't get the mother I wanted. It was not pretty. Y'all laughed, but I got to tell you, it was not pretty. But we did get the opportunity to learn to accept one another, to respect each other's differences. We're making a difference in the lives of those children growing up now. We understand. Let's do this together. Let's understand the spiritual laws. Let's put them to use. Let's go into that silence, that sometimes darkness, and know something greater is emerging. The universe is always working for us, right here and right now. It's more than possible. It's assured. It is assured to us. It's emerging more with every passing moment from our hearts. And so from my heart to yours, aloha, namaste, blessed be, amen. And so it is. Thank you.